Hello, everyone. Welcome to CTM Academy Day 1. We want to thank everyone for attending today's class. Our goal is to provide you with the information, resources, and tools to make the most out of your call tracking metrics account. But before we get started, let's go over a few logistical items real quickly. Every effort was made to ensure that the information provided in today's class is accurate and up to date. Material for this course are confidential and proprietary, so please do not distribute them. We have a few course recommendations for you today. First, please make sure that you are logged into your call tracking metrics account. Also, if you have two monitors, you may want to set them up, one to view the presentation on the screen and the other to have your CTM count for working sessions. We also recommend using the latest version of either Chrome or Firefox for your browser today, and that you enable pop-ups. If you experience any audio issues during the class, you should call the phone line provided in the audio panel of GoToWebinar. All attendees will remain in listen-only mode for the duration of the class. Questions will be addressed throughout the course, so please enter them at any time into the question panel in the GoToWebinar toolbar. We do have a few account assumptions. One is going to be that you have a call tracking metrics account that you can log into today. If you don't have one, you can head over to our plans page and sign up for one. Another assumption that we have is that you have a platform that you can test the number swapping. So Instapage is one that we recommend. You can create a free trial and it won't require a credit card. So if you don't have a testing environment, that's one we recommend. In today's class, I'm going to be using Unbounce, but the two are very similar. During the class today, there'll be a series of breaks, working sessions, and Q&A sessions. We'll be covering the various types of numbers and tracking sources and moving into call settings, followed by an overview. I'm going to be your presenter today. My name is Jessica Michaels. I'm a Google certified partner, and I currently serve as our product coach here at Call Tracking Metrics. I always like to start with a few exercises just to make sure everyone is familiar with their GoToWebinar control panel. So if you can hear me, raise your hand on the control panel. See if we can see some hands going up. All right, I see a good amount of hands going up. Great, great, great. All right, I'm going to pull those down. And if you can see my screen, my slide that I have up that says hello, raise your hand. All right, I see hands going up. Awesome. Okay, so it's safe to say that everyone can see and hear me. The next thing I want to make sure that everyone is aware of is our question box. So if you can find our question box, tell me a little something about you. Tell me what state or area you're dialing in from, and maybe the weather where you are. I see I have some people in Utah, Cancun, Mexico. Awesome. Somebody says it's way too hot. We have Dallas, Texas representing. We have Atlanta, Georgia, North Carolina, Atlanta, Maryland, Michigan, Alabama, Fort Worth, Texas. We have a large group today, guys. It's going to be good. We have some Alberta, Canada, North Carolina, Dallas. They said it's rainy. Call Tracking Metrics, we're located in Serena Park, Maryland, which is right by Annapolis, Maryland, and it has been raining here for days. It's actually not raining today, so that's nice. We have some Florida representing. We have California, sunny California. They say it's beautiful. San Diego, Scottsdale, Arizona, Oregon, and they are still coming in. Well, welcome everyone. Northern Virginia. We have a full house. I'm going to go ahead and clear all these out. Throughout the presentation, if you have any questions, just enter them into the box, and we have some team members that are going to be live answering those for you, or else we'll wait into a break and address those. So So welcome everyone. Before we get started, I also like to start with a few polls to get an idea of who we have attending today. So the first one, here we go, is how long have you been using call tracking metrics? Are you not a customer? Are you a new customer between 0 and 3 months, between 3 and 6 months, between 6 and 12 months, or over a year? So we should actually have around 120 people in the class today. So we'll see what our audience looks like. Someone's asking if we'll have access to the session recording after the webinar. We will. It takes a few hours to process, so it will probably be uploaded by tomorrow morning. All right, so let's take a look at the poll. All right, so we have about 2% who are not customers. Welcome. We have about 40% who are fairly new, between 0 and 3 months. Welcome. 14% between 3 and 6 months. Welcome to all of you. Between 6 and 12 months, 16%, and over a year, 28%. Well, welcome everyone. Have another little poll for you. One is, how many classes did you register for? The Academy is a week long. So just trying to get an idea. Are you here today? Are you here half the week? The whole week? All right, so let me go ahead. Looks like most people have voted. Let's look at the results. So we have almost 10% here just today. We have almost 30% here today and tomorrow, 13% through Wednesday, 6% through Thursday, and almost 50% of us staying all week. Well, welcome everyone. Just to give you a quick overview of what we're going to be covering. Today, we're going to start out with an empty call tracking metrics account, and we're going to build it up. So today is going to be a lot of the basics, same with tomorrow. And then as the days go, we're going to be getting progressively more advanced. So, all right, let's go ahead and close this. And then I have one more poll. This one is actually just for fun. Today is National Cheese Day. So what's your favorite kind of cheese? It only let me put 5 options. So we have American cheese, blue cheese, goat cheese, cheddar cheese, or brie. And of course, there is no wrong answer. Just for fun, see what the crowd say. Let's take a look. And looks like about 80% have voted. So let's share those results. So 11% down with the American cheese, 7 for the blue cheese, which is my least favorite, 13 for the goat cheese. That would have been what I voted for, but it doesn't let me vote. About 40% of us like cheddar cheese, and 30 for brie. So happy Cheese Day, everyone. Hope you have lots of cheese in your day. Someone asked if you can still register for more classes. Absolutely. The registration isn't going to come down until after the class is completed. So you could still register for this class up until it's over. So, all right. So let's go ahead and begin the course. Another thing I wanted to point out before we get started, this is going to be for the whole week. Everything that we're doing is, it's a live demo and presentation. So with that, things will go wrong from here to there. It's a learning experience. So we will make mistakes and recover them together. So let's go ahead and get started. All right, so in the first section, we're going to be covering tracking numbers, receiving numbers, target numbers, tracking sources, and the tracking code. And to get us started, we have a video, so enjoy.
This is Michelle. Michelle is a successful marketer. Michelle is successful because she has a secret weapon fueling her advertising. She knows exactly which advertising channels are bringing in the most leads and generating the most sales. She uses call tracking metrics. Here's how it works. Michelle advertises in many places like online ads, radio ads, and email campaigns. Call tracking metrics assigns a unique tracking number to each individual advertising channel, allowing her to measure which advertising channels are driving phone calls and sales. Michelle has a budget for each marketing channel. Call tracking measures the quantity and quality of calls for each advertising channel and provides insight into which marketing channels are generating the most phone calls and sales. Using this data, Michelle adjusts her marketing budget to intelligently invest in the highest performing campaigns. Call tracking is quick and easy to set up. First, you'll need to purchase your tracking numbers. Tracking numbers are available in over 70 countries in both local and toll-free. CTM offers vanity numbers as well. Next, you'll need to select the receiving number, which is where you want the tracking number to ring. Tracking numbers can be routed to your desk phone, your cell phone, or a call queue. It can be set up to ring specific phone lines in a sequence or all at the same time. Lastly, you'll need to assign a tracking source to the tracking number. If you can put a phone number on it, call tracking metrics can track it. Installing CTM's tracking code allows the phone number on your website, known as the target number, to be dynamically replaced with a tracking number. The tracking numbers swap based on how a visitor comes to your website. Call Tracking Metrics is also a Google partner and has direct integrations with Google Analytics and AdWords. So your call data can be sent into analytics as events and calls into AdWords as conversions. Call Tracking Metrics provides all the reporting you need to make the most of every call and increase your return on investment. Stop wondering which advertising channels are converting into sales and profit and start tracking them today. Get started and discover how Call Tracking Metrics can transform communication into powerful intelligence.
All right, hope everyone enjoyed that. We're going to have a few videos throughout the day. So in that short video, we covered some basic terminology. That's going to be a tracking number, which is the number you're going to get through us. A target number, that's the number on your website that we are going to try to dynamically replace with the tracking number. A receiving number is going to be where we're actually ringing the call to. The tracking source is going to be the advertising channel we are going to attribute the call to, and the tracking code is the magic that makes it all happen. So let's continue on. So up first, we have a tracking number, which again is the phone number that your customers or potential customers will call. Call Tracking Metrics provides call tracking numbers to track advertisement performance in over 80 different countries now, offering both local and toll-free numbers. We also have true 800 numbers and vanity numbers available upon request. Before you can use our system, you need to purchase at least one tracking number. You can place a tracking number just about anywhere. Really, we like to say our motto is if you can put a phone number on it, we can track it. So as far as a tracking source, it could be a business card, a flyer, a billboard, a TV ad, a radio ad, really anywhere you put a phone number. So for our on-site traffic, we recommend having one tracking number per 20 daily visitors to your website. So if you're trying to track calls for your Google AdWords clicks and you have 100 visitors a day, we would recommend having 5 tracking numbers for that. We're going to cover that more in depth today and actually throughout the course, but just wanted to introduce that concept pretty early. So up next, we have a receiving number. A receiving number is the phone number that we're going to forward calls to from your tracking number so that your team can answer these calls. If you have a phone number that people are already calling today, it can be a receiving number. Receiving numbers can be a mobile number, a landline, or a number for your call center. It could also be from the cell phone. All you need is a headset to plug into a computer and a good internet connection to receive calls. So it actually doesn't even have to be a computer. Now we have an Android app and an Apple app, so you can actually use our cell phone through your mobile device or even a tablet. So up next is the target number. A target number is the phone number on your website that our script will find and dynamically swap with the tracking number. Some websites have one target number, others may have multiple tracking numbers for, say, something like sales or service. So here's another example of how you could have multiple target numbers on your site. And you can configure call tracking metrics to swap for some or all of your target numbers with a different tracking number. So with target numbers, we have different formatting. One is phone match, and what this is going to do is it's going to find the phone number in any format. So whether using parentheses, dashes, or dots, we're going to be able to identify that number. And we have exact match, which will only find a target number in the format that is exactly as you enter it. It's going to be case sensitive. It's going to be sensitive towards whether you're using parentheses, dots, or brackets. It's going to be an exact match. So we do give you two different ways to configure them. So we very quickly made it through three key terms, being the tracking number, which is the number that dynamically appears on your website or an ad that a customer sees and dials. Tracking numbers can be purchased through or within our system, or they can be ported in, which we'll be covering later. Next, we have the receiving number, which is the phone number we're forwarding calls to so that you can answer them. This is frequently your desk phone, your mobile phone, or a call center line. And next up, we have a target number, and this is the number that's listed, or like we like to say, hard-coded on your website that we're going to be replacing with our tracking numbers. Does everyone think they got those terms? Hope so, because we have a pop quiz. So actually, it'd probably be better if I advance the slide so you can't cheat and see the answers. So pop quiz. A target number is, select one of the following. Is a target number the number that dynamically appears on the website, the phone number we're forwarding calls to, or the number that is listed or hard-coded on your website? I'll give you a clue. There's only one right answer. And it's okay if you get it wrong because we don't know who's voting for what. We just see a total amount. Looks like about 60% has voted. Give it just another minute. So let's look at our results and share them. Okay, so looks like about 20% thought a target number is the number that dynamically appears on your website. Unfortunately, that is not correct. That is the tracking number. Now, I know a lot of these terms, they sound almost identical, so you really have to pay attention to make sure you're getting the right one. Looks like about 23% of us thought it was the phone number we're forwarding calls to. That is the receiving number, and it looks like 58% of us got it right. The target number is the number that is listed on your website that we are going to dynamically replace with a tracking number. So if you didn't get that one right, don't worry, I've got two more for you. So a tracking number is it the number that dynamically appears on a website, the phone number we're forwarding calls to, or the number that is listed on your website? Give you guys just a minute to answer these. And the numbers look a lot better this time as far as the results. So go ahead and share it. So it looks like 90% of us got it right. The tracking number is the number that will dynamically appear on your website, or a number that can be used in something like a radio ad or a billboard that would just be printed and people would dial it. It is not the number we're forwarding calls to, and it is not the number listed on your website. So I've got one more for you. It should be pretty easy. And it is, what is a receiving number? Is it the number on a website? Is it the phone number we're forwarding calls to? Or is it the number that is hard-coded on your website? Give you just a minute to fill those out. These numbers look pretty good. So let's go ahead and share the results. So a receiving number, 94% of us got it right, is the phone number we're going to forward calls to. So 6% thought that it's the number that's listed or hard-coded on your website, which can be a little bit tricky because very often a receiving number and a target number are the same thing. But as far as the terminology goes, the receiving number really refers to where the phone is going to ring to, and a target number is referring to the number listed on your website. So again, they are very commonly used as the same number for a target number and a receiving number, but their functionality is a little different. So great job, everyone. I think 94%, pretty good. So up next, we have another video that's going to help explain tracking sources. So enjoy.
Welcome to Call Tracking Metrics training video. In this workshop, we're going to be explaining how tracking sources are configured. A tracking source refers to the advertising channel that you want to track and attribute call, text, and form submissions to. If you can put a phone number on it, Call Tracking Metrics can track it. A tracking source can be assigned to any advertising channel. For example, common tracking sources are Google AdWords, printed flyers, billboards, and organic traffic. There are two types of tracking sources: off-site and on-site tracking sources. Off-site tracking sources are your traditional advertising methods, like signs, billboards, newspapers, and radio ads. TV ads would also be an off-site tracking source. On-site tracking sources. On-site traffic is exactly what it sounds like. It's advertising that takes place online, and session data will be attributed to the call. Common on-site tracking sources are Google AdWords, Facebook, Bing ads, and organic traffic. On-site tracking sources use dynamic number insertion, which is commonly referred to as DNI. Dynamic number insertion will replace the phone number on your website with a tracking number based on how the user came to the page. On-site tracking sources will trigger the swapping of the phone number's base on either the referring URL or by the landing page. Here's some common examples of referring URL triggers. Referring triggers are any site that directs traffic to your site. Landing page triggers. The number will dynamically swap based on defined characteristics on the landing page. Landing page triggers are commonly defined by UTM tags and regular expression. Thanks for watching.
All right. In case you're wondering, all these videos live in our training hub, and I can share the link for that after the webinar or during a break if you wanted to revisit those. So tracking sources. We have default setups for many tracking sources, but you can customize them and create custom tracking sources depending on how granular you want your data to report. So tracking sources are the advertisement that you want to track. So common ones are Google AdWords, Bing, Bing Organic, Facebook, Twitter, billboards, radio. There's so many, there's really no limit to how many you can have or you want. It's just really how granular you want your tracking to be. So when it comes to tracking sources, we have two types, like the little video said. We have on-site and we have off-site. So on-site, these are the numbers that will be dynamically appearing on your website based on how the visitor came to the page. So an offsite one, these are going to be the numbers that appear off of your website, such as, billboards, TV ads, radio, and so on. So for offsite, no dynamic swapping, people would actually just see the number and dial it, and then we'd be able to attribute that call to the advertising channel. So with the tracking sources, we have standard versus custom. We have many commonly used tracking sources that are already pre-configured for you, such as Google Organic, AdWords, Bing, Facebook, etc. These sources are configured to look for either a referring or a landing page URL pattern that we can identify that type of visitor and then show them a specific tracking number. We have custom ones that you can make as well. So if you find that there are sources that you want that we don't have already existing inside of call tracking metrics, you'll need to create a custom source, which is no problem. We actually create custom sources all day. When it comes to tracking sources, there are three main components. One is going to be real easy. It's just naming your source. Two is deciding whether or not this is going to be an on-site or an off-site tracking source. And then the third thing is going to be the source trigger. So if this is an on-site source, are we going to be swapping based on the referring website or based on a landing page URL? So also in regards to tracking sources, we have, this is where you can assign some attribution. Inside of call tracking metrics, we have two different attribution models. One is going to be first touch. So with that, we're going to report on the original way the caller came to your website. And then we have last touch, and that's going to report on the most recent referring source that the caller came through. So what's also kind of fun is that the different tracking sources can have different attribution models. So just a quick example of that. For all of my paid sources, I like to have those as the last touch because I always want that represented as the source. But for things like my organics, my directs, those I just have as first touch because it's not as relevant to me. So we'll be covering that in a lot more depth later on today and throughout the week. The next thing that can be configured under the tracking source is going to be the position. And the position is the order in which you want the tracking script to try to match your visitor to a session. You always want the more specific sources to match first so that the more generic sources like referral don't swap. The lower the number, the more specific the source. So with giving the example of a referral, so Facebook is also technically a referral to your website. So if somebody comes from Facebook, we're going to want to show the Facebook tracking source over the referral tracking source. So what we would do is we would position the Facebook one to have a smaller number than the referral. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to switch into call tracking metrics and show you some tracking sources. Hopefully I will show you the right screen. Here we go. Good stuff. So this is a demo account that we have. So to go to your tracking sources, we would go to numbers, tracking sources. And here we have a bunch that are already pre-made in this account. So, and then over here, we can see the type, whether it is an on-site or an off-site, as well as the position. And here's also where we can attribute first touch versus last touch. So if we wanted to create a new tracking source, I would simply come over to the new source button, and that's going to drop me right here. So right here is where we have the presets. These are going to be our pre-configured tracking sources. So if I click into here, this is going to expand and show me a bunch of, these are the standard ones that people have asked for. So if I wanted to create a tracking source for, let's just say my organic traffic, it's going to automatically give us a name. It's going to give us a description. It's going to be an on-site source. So that's going to say we're going to try to be dynamically swapping for this. And then this is going to be based on the referring site. So this is someone who's coming from Google Organic and then hitting your website. So it's going to have all the work done for you. It will also have the position standard listed as 3. Here's where we could decide whether or not we want it to be first or last touch. By default, we're going to default to first touch, but that doesn't always mean that that is right for you. So you could very easily toggle that on to have it be last touch attribution. We have lots of other presets that you could use, such as, say, Twitter. So that's going to name it, it's going to put our description in, it's going to make our source on site. So in this case, we have a little bit of regular expression happening here. So this is going to say whether it's from Twitter or Hootsuite or standard co-tweet or co-tweet, all these different Twitter handles that could be referring from. So that's going to be that. As far as a landing page source, say AdWords, for example, again, the name will be in, it'll be an ARN site. And in this case, the trigger is going to be GCLID equals .plus. So what does that mean? Inside of AdWords, if you have auto tagging turned on, it's going to create what's known as a Google Click ID. And that essentially acts as a receipt for every paid click. So with that enabled, anytime there's a paid click that from AdWords that leads to your site, there'll be a GCLID in it. So that's what we're looking for to swap and show your Google AdWords tracking source and number. So referring versus landing. Let's see. And then lastly, I could show you an offsite source. Those are really, really direct. So I could say print. So again, first thing you do is you need to name the source, decide whether it's an ARN site or offsite. So for offsite, all you're really doing is labeling it with a name. So in this case, that is all the configuration you need to do. And that is our real quick overview on tracking the sources. So if I wanted to create a custom one, I could do that. So I'm actually just going to exit out of this and then say new. So if I wanted to create one for, say, something like AdRoll, which is a remarketing software, I could just come in here and say, I want to name it AdRoll. And then I could put in my description, remarketing ads. It would be an ARN site. And then with something like AdRoll, what I would be doing is probably putting in a parameter of something like source equals, equals AdRoll. You just want to make sure that the landing page that AdRoll is pointing to has this parameter inside of it. Google offers a few tools that are really helpful with building these. So for example, if we come over to, this is Google's URL builder, I'll actually paste this into the chat because it's super handy. This is our demo site that we have, Coco Loco. So if I wanted to send my AdRoll traffic here, I would say AdRoll, it would still be CPC, but maybe my campaign would be June 2018. So what this is actually going to do is create all the tags for me. So all I would have to do is copy this, paste this into the destination URL for my ads, and then come over here and I could actually paste this in down here. And it's going to create some automatic tags for me. So in this case, this is probably all I would need. So I could do that, and then my source is built for AdRoll. I probably wouldn't want a position of 100. I think something like 4 would be pretty good for that. So if anyone comes from my AdRoll ads, it will show this source. So I can go ahead and save that. So we'll be going over this a lot more throughout the course. I just wanted to give a quick demo of the different ways that you can build a tracking source, some examples of offsite and on-site, and then a custom one. All right. So tracking sources with Google. So Google AdWords is an online tracking source. And what's going to happen is somebody's going to click your ad, and then we're going to dynamically swap in the Google AdWords tracking number that is assigned to the source. And that's going to be looking for the GCLID. Now, the Google, if you're doing ad extensions or click-to-calls, this is very commonly confused. That is actually going to be an offline tracking source. And why that is because the visitor is actually not going to hit your website. So our tracking code's not going to be there. Google Analytics tracking code's not going to be there. So it essentially acts exactly like an offline source. So what's important is that you cannot use the same tracking number for Google AdWords and Google Ad Extensions or a Google Click to Call. Because what's going to happen is we're going to actually do some false attribution. I actually have a video I'm going to play next that explains this, probably better than I will. So let's just go ahead and jump into that. So we have two integrations for AdWords. There's two different types, and they're both sending conversions into AdWords. So.
Welcome to Call Tracking Metrics training video. In this workshop, we're going to be covering the setup of call tracking metrics integration with Google Analytics and AdWords. Before you begin, you must have user access to Google Analytics, admin access to call tracking metrics. You must be using the same email address to log into both systems. The call tracking metrics tracking script should be installed on your website. The Google Analytics tracking script should also be installed on your website. Google Analytics and Google AdWords should be synced and communicating. Lastly, auto tagging needs to be enabled in AdWords. Call Tracking Metrics has two integrations for the two types of Google paid calls, Google Analytics and Google AdWords. The AdWords integrations tracks calls from click-to-call ads and call extensions, while the Analytics integrations tracks and attributes data for click-to-landing pages. When performing a search, it's common for ads to have multiple call to actions, like displaying a phone number to call or a link to click. When you click to the landing page, there will be a GCLID in the URL. This is Google's paid click identifier. It essentially acts as a unique receipt numbers for paid clicks. When you click to a landing page, Call Tracking Metrics tracking script is present, as well as Google Analytics tracking script. The two softwares match sessions data and share session data. While for click to call, Google AdWords uses a Google forwarding number, which forwards to a call tracking number, and the two systems match and pass data. Two types of paid calls, both reporting as conversions in AdWords.
All right, hopefully that video explain why we have the two separate integrations and the purpose of that. So if you actually shared the number, we would attribute false session data, and we don't want to optimize off of things like that. So we're going to jump into some more polls because these are fun. So here we go. See how closely everyone was paying attention. So first one is a true and false. So phone match finds the phone number in any format, whether it be parentheses, dots, or dashes. Is this statement true or false? I give everyone just a minute to find all that. All right, let's take a look at the results. Looks like a majority have got it right, and that is true. So with phone match, it doesn't matter the format, we are going to find the number and swap it. So good job with that. We have another one for you. All right. Launch the poll. So this says Facebook, Twitter, or LinkedIn, when creating a custom source for social sites, should this regular expression be triggered by a referring source or a landing page trigger? So how should we trigger this all social poll? Or I'm sorry, all social source? Custom one. All right, let's go ahead and take a look at the results. Oops. It's showing, okay. So looks like most of us got it right, about 76% of us. That's going to be a referring source because they're coming from either Twitter or Facebook or LinkedIn and landing on your website. So good job, everyone. That would be referring. I think I've got a couple more of these just to make sure everyone is real sharp on our sources. Here we go. So UTM underscore campaign equals spring savings and GCLID. This regular expression for Google AdWords should be triggered by, is it a referring source or a landing page source? All right, looks like about half of us have voted. Let's give it just another second. All right, let's go ahead and take a look. So this would be by a landing page source. Anything tag-based is going to be on a landing page. So if you see something like UTM underscore, that is going to be a tag, and that tag is going to be written onto the landing page. So it looks like most of us got it right. Let me see if we got one more. Actually, I think I got a couple more. Just to make sure we're all experts. So we have UTM underscore medium equals email, campaign equals spring. When creating a custom source like this, would this be triggered by a referring source or a landing page? Right, looks like about half of us have voted. Give it just another second. All right, and let's go ahead and share the results. So in this case, looks like the majority of us got it right. It would be by landing page. So remember, anything tag-based is going to be written on the landing page. Anything referring-based is going to be referencing the referring site. So something like, Facebook.com or, Twitter.com, angieslist.com, and so on. Anything tag-based is going to be written into the landing page. All right, here's another one. When creating a custom source for Yelp, the source trigger should be by referring or landing page. All right, seeing some good numbers here. And share the results. So the majority of us again got it right. It would be by the referring source of Yelp.com. So if somebody comes to Yelp and then clicks from Yelp to your website, we want to show a number specific to Yelp. So that would be a referring source. Great job. And here's another one. So this is a true or false. You should use the same tracking number for Google AdWords source and a click to call or call extension source. Is that true or false? I love the numbers I'm seeing right now. Looking good. It looks like about half of us have voted. So I will go ahead and share the results. So false, false, false. We should not share the source. It just simply, one is an offline source and one is an online source. So if you have an offline call, we're going to attribute session data to it, which would be false attribution, which we do not want to happen. So we do not recommend sharing the same tracking numbers for or for AdWords and click-to-calls. All right, here is another one. When creating a custom source for Angie's List, the source should be triggered by a referring source or a landing page source. All right, looks like most of us have voted, and it looks like we're getting the hang of it. It would be a referring source because, again, they're referred from Angie's List to your website. So great job, everyone. Hope you like the polls. I think I got a couple more throughout the day that we will visit. All right, here's just a review that we had from one of our clients. I always like to share our reviews. It says having a call tracking number for different social profiles and PPC accounts allows us to track everything with amazing detail on each specific channel to see what is performing and what is not. This allows us to duplicate success and tweak those that are not performing well. So that's really our objective. All right, so next we're going to look at actually configuring numbers and where we go to do that. So for tracking numbers, we would go to our numbers tab and then tracking numbers. For tracking sources, we would go numbers, tracking sources. For receiving numbers, numbers, receiving numbers, and for target numbers, we would go from our numbers tab to our target number. So much easier shown than spoken. So let's switch into a live demo to show you how to find all those things. All right, so here is our already built out demo account. So if we wanted to look at tracking numbers, we would go to our numbers tab here and we have tracking numbers. So this will bring us a list of all the tracking numbers we already have purchased and configured. And then underneath here, this is the actual label of the tracking number. So it's just a way to help keep this number here organized and recognized as Google AdWords, even though the source is right there. So up next, if we wanted to find tracking sources, we would come back to our numbers tab up here and head over to tracking sources. And this will give us a list of all the tracking sources we already have configured. It'll tell us the type of source it is, whether it's an offsite or an onsite. If it's an offsite source, there's not going to be a position because there's no swapping that's taking place. So don't be alarmed if you see these gaps here. And this is also where we can real easily decide whether or not this is going to be first touch or last touch. And then if you wanted to create a new source, you could always click right here and build another one. So next up, we have a receiving number. To get there, we have numbers, and then we're going to hit our receiving numbers right here, which is going to be under routing. And this is going to give us a list of all the receiving numbers we have configured, and then the tracking numbers that are assigned to them. And then far over here to the right, it will actually tell us the total amount of calls we've had to each of these receiving numbers. So lastly, we have the target number. So to get there, we are going to go to numbers, back over to the dynamic numbers, and then target number right here. And this is going to give us a list of the target numbers that we already have configured, the match type that we have selected, and then a list of all the tracking numbers that we have assigned to that target number. So that's just a real quick where to find all these things. For the last part of the day today, we're actually going to be doing a workshop where we're going to purchase numbers and configure all of them. So we'll be revisiting all of this pretty shortly. Okay, so let's head back to our presentation deck. There we go. So that was exploring where we find these settings. Next thing we're going to talk about is the tracking code. So that is the magic which is going to actually make these numbers swap. So we're going to begin with taking a deep dive into the tracking code. The tracking code is the script that sits on your website that tracks visitors to your website and swaps the phone number to a tracking number. And of course, the phone number would be the target number that we're swapping with the tracking number. It watches where people come from and it matches them to the advertising sources you're tracking in your account and stores data about those visitors and what they're doing on your site, such as the landing page they came in on, the last viewed page, the IP address, location, past visits, and etc. Things like that. So more about the tracking code. What does it do? The tracking code looks for the target number and indicates changing it to a tracking number if a visitor comes through one of your sources. It collects data about your visitors and stores it for reporting. It's located under the Numbers tab and then Tracking Code. It looks just like, lost my mouse, like this. This would actually be your call tracking metrics account ID. Yep. So each account and sub-account will have its own unique code. So if you're on our marketing plan or above and you have multiple sub-accounts, each sub-account is going to have a unique tracking code. So where does this go? It goes into the head tag of your website, and the code should go on all of your pages that you want it to swap. All right, so let's actually switch back into call tracking metrics, and I will show you where we can find the code, and then I'll actually do a little demo of the swapping. And then we'll switch, we'll have a 10-minute break. So we'll do that on the hour. All right, so here we are back in our, we'll jump into this account. Into our account. So if we go to our Numbers tab, and over here under Dynamic, that's where we're going to find our tracking code. So here we can see this would be the code that I would need to put in the head tag of my website. So I do have a demo account that I can show you, cocoloco.life. And you can see we already have a tracking number showing. So I'm trying to think of the best way to do this. So I could go in the image and say view page source. So if I wanted to see whether or not the code was on the site, I could just hit, I'm on a Mac, so Command F, and I could search for CTM. And then here I can see I've got my script successfully installed. And you can see it is within the head tag, so that is good. That's what we're looking for. And then I can tell I'm seeing a number that ends in 7736. So let's take a look at what tracking number that would be. So I can go to my numbers, tracking numbers. And what did I say? 7736. So that's going to be website. So that number is going to show up for anyone who comes without coming through one of my other sources, such as Facebook or Twitter or Google Organic. So basically, if somebody gets to my website in any way, we're going to show this number as a default capture all. The target number on my site, as you can see here, is this, it's not a real number. It's going to be 410-000-000. So if I were to actually look at the code on my page, I could type in that phone number, and you'd see it's actually listed on the site like that, 410-000-000. But if we look at the site, we're obviously not seeing that phone number because we're doing the dynamic number swapping. Now, one thing that we definitely recommend when you're doing testing to see if your numbers are swapping is to do it in an incognito window, because incognito windows don't pass cookies from your regular browser. So right now, since I'm on this page, I'm going to be cookied for my website tracking source for 30 days. So if I were to come in from a different way, maybe Facebook, it would still show me this number because I'm cookied for this number. So if I wanted to test again, I would want to grab this, pull up an incognito window or a private browser. I can go ahead and paste my URL in, and then I'm going to put a question mark, GCLID equals test. So that's Google AdWords paid click identifier. And what I'm going to be doing is basically tricking the browser into thinking that I'm an AdWords visitor right now. So I should see a different phone number. So now I'm seeing a phone number that ends in 3598. I'm actually going to close this and let's take a look. So for AdWords 3598. So far doing well. I'm actually swapping for the correct sources. Let's see if we can see for Facebook. So I'm going to go again into an incognito so that I'm not passing cookies. Also, if you have multiple incognito windows open, they'll share cookies together. So you want to make sure that you only have one incognito open at a time. Which I know all this stuff gets really confusing, but it works. So what I'm going to do now is I'm actually going to search for Coco Loco. I'm going to say Serena Park to see if I can find. I think it lists my Facebook. Awesome. So if I click into here, now I'm into Facebook, and then not now. And then click one of their links. So now I should be a Facebook referral and I should see the Facebook tracking source. So let's go ahead and click this and hopefully I will see the correct tracking source. So now I see 1273. So let's take a look. Hopefully that's Facebook 1273. So awesome. We seem to be swapping properly. Everyone with me so far? Raise your hand if you're still with me. Or if you learned something new. I see a few hands going up. All right, great. So that was our real quick demo on swapping. Let's take a 13-minute break and meet back at 3:10. So grab a cup of coffee, go stretch your legs, and we'll meet back and we'll jump into some new stuff. All right, see you guys in a few. All right, welcome back. Hopefully everyone had a chance to get up, stretch their legs, grab a fresh cup of coffee. We got about another 40 to 50 minutes to cover today. So let's go ahead and get started. But of course, first I have a few polls just to see how many people have been paying attention. So let's take the first one. So Last Touch reports on the most recent referring source that the caller came from to the site. Is that a true or a false statement in regarding to Last Touch? And they're coming in. I think we still have a handful of people who might not have made it back to their desk yet. So Last Touch reports on the most recent referring source that the caller came from to the site through. True or false? And let's take a look. And everyone did a great job. That is a true statement. Last Touch is going to report on the most recent way that they came to the site. So good job. Looks like 94% of us got it right. And I have another one for you. So let's go ahead and launch this one. So this one is a math problem. So how many tracking numbers would you recommend for a Google AdWords source with a website with 400 paid visitors a day? So you might remember we had a little bit of an equation for how to determine which is which. If I told you the equation, I would give away the answer. So see, our numbers seem to be all over the board. Give it just another second. Let's take a look. And here we go. So looks like 6% said 1. That is not what we would recommend. 12% said 8. That is also not what we would recommend. Looks like almost 10% said 10. Close, but not quite. And then the majority said 20, and that is correct. We would recommend 1 tracking number per 20 visitors a day. So that would be 5 for if you had 100 visitors. So if you had 400 visitors, we would recommend 20 tracking numbers. So, and that's just to get the accuracy up. We'll be covering that a lot more on Wednesday because that's going to be our analytics and attribution day. So that's going to be solely focused on that. But really what we're trying to match with this is we're trying to make sure that that session that we're attributing to the caller is accurate. So for that to be accurate, we're going to recommend 1 tracking number for 20 visitors a day. So 400 visitors would be 20 tracking numbers. So good job on that one. That's definitely a trickier one. And then here we go. And our last poll for the day is a true or false statement, and it is a spider has 6 legs. True or false? Give everyone just a minute. Looks like about half of us have voted. So give it just another second. All right, so in this case, the majority is wrong. This is a trick question. A spider does have 6 legs. It has 8 in total. So that's just a fun one. So again, just to recap, a spider has 8 legs, but also has 6 legs. So trick question, just to keep everyone on their toes. So let's go ahead and start the second section today. Here we go. So what we're going to be covering next is going to be porting numbers, vanity numbers, buying numbers, dynamic number swapping, and then we're going to be finishing off with a working session today. Sorry, I'm operating like 3 separate screens, so I very often get a little lost, so I apologize for that. Just want to make sure I'm showing the right screen at the right time. So porting numbers. Porting numbers is the process of bringing your own phone numbers inside of call tracking metrics. So to help explain porting, I have a video. I think this is our last video today. We'll have some more videos throughout the course this week, but here we go. Here's a little video to help explain porting.
Welcome to Call Tracking Metrics Guide to Porting. Try to always contact your current carrier to discuss their port away process. Ask them for CSRs for each number. Numbers can have different addresses, even in the same account. You will need 2 documents to begin the port process: an LOA and proof of ownership. This can be a bill, screenshot of phone numbers, or a Google unlock screen. Go to our port numbers page and fill out the form there. Accept our terms to be charged for the first month's fee. Sign the LOA and upload your proof of ownership. You will receive updates along the way that will be delivered to the email address of the user that entered the port, as well as in the notes section of the port page. A few reasons a port can be rejected are missing PIN and account number, wrong address, wrong signer or business name. For all rejections, please contact your current carrier. An email will be sent to the user that entered the port with the scheduled port date. On this date, the port will complete at 10 a.m. Pacific. At this time, please test your number.
All right. And porting a number into our system is if you're coming in from a competitor of ours or another provider, just for example, Verizon, AT&T, you already have a number with them, but you want to bring into our system, you can do that with a process that we call porting. You can also port numbers from our system into another one, and we do not charge for that, which is something that separates us from our competitors. So the next thing we're going to look at is actually configuring numbers. So we're actually going to take a quick look at porting. We're going to look at purchasing numbers. We're going to look at the different ways we can search for numbers and to purchase. So we can search by local, toll-free. We can search for vanity numbers. And then we'll cover how to place a custom order or a request order for a number. So to do so, we're going to hop back into my demo account. Yep, here we go. So if you had numbers that you wanted to port into our system, you would do that by coming to our Numbers tab, and then we have Port. Let's get rid of that. So you would just need to follow through and fill all of these out. The typical porting process can take 2 to 4 weeks. So if you are trying to port a number over, this is definitely something that you want to start right away. It is a lot of paperwork back and forth. Just everything has to be exact. So definitely get started on this as soon as possible so that we can get these to you right away. Something else that's useful, we have these show me hows. They're guides that are going to actually walk you through the process. So if we wanted to see, I think, yeah, here it's going to tell me to click numbers. Got it. And it's going to tell me, oh, this looks like the wrong one. This is going to be for installing the code. So I'll come back. And that's porting. Again, a little bit of a process, but it's moving numbers from one carrier to the next. So the next thing we're going to cover is purchasing numbers. Now, like we said, we offer numbers in I believe over 80 different countries now. So really, if you're looking for a number in a country, the odds are we can get it for you. If it's not in our instant dropdown, you could put a request in and we could probably get it for you that way. So to purchase numbers, you would go to our Numbers tab here and then by numbers. Here we go. And if you're searching by country, you can hit the drop down and then we will have all the different countries that we offer, that we have readily available. Our number bank is always being updated. So if you look today and you look tomorrow, you'll see a different stock So just keep that in mind. And then each country will actually have different usage fees, which is based on the country. We have very little control over that. So right here for US, this will also depend on what plan you're on. Each plan has a different pricing structure. So for US local numbers, for me on the contact center plan, it's $1.25 a number. While if I wanted to just show you that there's a little difference between, let's say Brazil. Let's see what those would cost. Say search. So Brazil numbers are a little bit more expensive. They would be roughly $6.12. So just keep that in mind as you're purchasing. The number cost is going to be based on the country. So for this example, we'll do a US number. If I was searching for a specific area code, I could type that in here. Like I said, we're located in Serna Park, Maryland. So our local area code is 410. I could just say, let's search for that, see what it has in stock for me. So here's a bunch of different ones. If I was looking for specifically Serena Park, I could scroll to a couple other pages. Up there we go. Baltimore is just around the corner from us, so is Annapolis. So this is really just the rate center. But really any 410 I think would be good. Another one that we have here is 443. So if I wanted to see if we had any stock of those, search for it and it will populate. So you can see these are Baltimore, all local areas. And again, we have a ton of numbers to select from. So once I find a number that really speaks to me, let's see, this looks beautiful, Brooklyn Park, why not? Our shopping cart works very similar to a Google shopping cart or an Amazon shopping cart. As you select the ones you'd like, you don't actually purchase them until you hit purchase and configure. So they'll just sit over here until you hit that. Excuse me. Now, in general, for local numbers, it's pretty safe to leave them in your shopping cart and continue to shop around. When it comes to our toll-free numbers, they tend to sell a lot more rapidly. So if I was searching for a toll-free number, which we actually have a true 800 number. These sell like, what's the saying, like hotcakes or whatever. These sell like crazy, so they're actually a lot harder to keep in stock. So something like this, I would probably want to purchase right away. So I probably just hit this and then purchase and configure just to ensure that I get that. Now with true 800 numbers, we do have a setup fee of roughly $90. That's a one-time setup fee. So don't be alarmed if you see that. All right, go ahead and clear this. And then when it comes to toll-free numbers, we could also search by any prefix. So if I wanted a true 800, I could see how many we have. As you see, we only have one in stock right now. It'll probably be gone within the next 20 minutes. They go real fast. But maybe I want an 888 number. Got a pretty good stock of those. Actually, these are all pretty common. So we have 855s, a whole bunch in stock. One thing to also you might want to keep an eye for is whether or not these phone numbers are text message capable, which is giving them the ability to send outbound and receive inbound text messages. So I think for most standard US and Canadian local numbers, texting is pretty much always there. Toll frees you want to keep an eye out for, and then when you get in some of the international numbers, you just want to keep an eye out. If you're trying to do texting campaigns, just make sure that it does say that it's enabled. So you could search by address. So if you wanted to find a number that is near a certain address, you could actually type the address in here and it would help find it. Or if you're looking for a number near another one, you could enter that in here. So some different ways we can search. Lots of different ways. So, and again, by countries. So maybe I want some in the United Kingdom, just hit search. And they have toll frees as well. So I could search for some UK toll frees, and you see these ones are not text message capable. So just a good thing to keep in mind when you're searching. Same with Canada. We could look at local. These are all texting good. They have toll-frees as well. I think we have a bunch of a good representation from Canada today, so welcome. We have lots of toll-frees and stuff for you, as well as searching by address. I know that's important in Canada because they have different long-distance charges. So, and that is the different ways that we can search and purchase numbers. Now, if you are looking for a specific number that you didn't find in here, maybe it's a vanity number, maybe you wanted it to be, you know, I don't know. There's so many examples, but you could always come and request one. So we have a full team here that actually handles requesting numbers and porting numbers. And looks like it pre-filled a lot of my information out. So, you know, just tell us who you are, a way we can contact you, an email address, your account ID, and let us know a little bit about what you're looking for. And then, you know, just type it in here, and then our team is very responsive. They'll get back to you. They'll let you know what options we have. So if you don't see exactly what you're looking for when you're on our purchase page, please fill out a request and we will try our best to get you that, that number. All right, so that is purchasing numbers, which is pretty straightforward, but I always like to cover it just so that we're all on the same page. And how to request a vanity number or a number that's out of stock. Okay, so what we're going to do next is we're actually going to take everything that we've spoke about today, and we are going to put it to the test. So what we're going to do is actually go in, I'm going to create a new account inside of CTM. I'm going to purchase some numbers. I'm going to create tracking sources and target numbers and receiving numbers. And like I said in the beginning, if you don't have a test environment to test the swapping, if you go to instapage.com, you can create a free account, and that's in Landing Page Builder. In the example today, I'm going to be using Unbounce, so feel free to try to follow along and mimic what I do, or just watch and learn. All right, so let's jump in and start building. So I'm going to switch back to my main screen. Here we go. And what I'm going to do is actually come into here. I'm going to go into my accounts, and I'm going to create a new account for this. This is going to be the same account that I'm going to use for the Academy all week. So I'm just going to call this June Academy 2018. Say get started. So now we have our new account. So let's see. First, let me show you, if you don't have a testing environment, here's Instapage. You can sign up, and this will create a page or an account for you, a 14-day free trial. I've unfortunately maxed out on my free trial, so I can't use that anymore. I have to use Unbounce, which I have a paid subscription for. So what I'm going to do is just pick one of their general templates here. I'm going to use this one because I like this one. I'm going to name it Jessica June 18. Of course. There we go. So this is what I'm going to use just to test to see if my configuration was done properly. So the first thing I need is a target number. So I like to just create fake target numbers. So I'm just going to go like this. So now I have a target number on the site. Boom, nothing fancy. This is now my beautiful site. So Beautiful, right? So with that much done, now I have a new site. So this is the order that I like to start setting things up in. I like to configure my target number, my receiving number, and then my tracking source, and then purchase the number. The thing about call tracking metrics is there's several ways to do the same thing, and not really one is right and the other is wrong. It's just whatever works best for you. And this is just for the initial setup. So what I'm going to do first is create my target number. So I'm just going to say website target number. I have that here. Now creating a target number is pretty straightforward. I could use show me how, and it will say enter description. We did that. Next, it's going to tell me to choose my type. I'm going to leave the exact match off, which would make it the phone match. It's going to hit next, and it's going to tell me to put my target number in. Oops. So I'm going to go 000. Next. Now it's going to ask me to assign tracking numbers to this target number, which I haven't purchased yet. So I'm just going to hit next and then save changes. So pretty straightforward on creating a target number. And I just want to make sure that this is the one that is on my website, which looks good and good. So the next thing I'm going to want to do is create a receiving number. And that's going to be where I want it to ring to. So I'm going to go to my receiving number. And this is really straightforward. It's just entering where we want the phone to ring. So let's see, this is my direct line here. And I'm just going to label this Jessica direct line. And then hit save and continue. So that's going to be telling it where I want it to ring. So we're good there. Now the next thing I'm going to want to do is create a tracking source. Now in this example, I'm going to create one that is just website from our presets. Now what website is going to do, since it's a preset, it's going to have the name already done. It's going to have the description already configured. It is going to be an online source. But what you'll notice is that the referring URL and the landing page URL triggers both have .star. And what that means is really that any string of numbers or letters can follow and it will swap. So the position for this is at 1,000. So it's basically saying if there's no other source, we're going to show this source rather than the target number. So I can go ahead and hit save. So now at this point, I have a target number, a receiving number, and a tracking source. So the next thing I want to do is actually go ahead and purchase a tracking number. So I'm going to come in here, say buy number. I'm going to buy a US number, and I'm going to do a 443, do a Maryland one. So I don't really care, so I'm just going to grab the first two and then hit purchase and configure. Now this is why I like doing the setup for the other things first, because now I'll be able to have a drop down and then say use this as my receiving number, and if I hit this little guy, it will apply to all. So that's pretty cool. Now here's where I can label this tracking number. In this case, I'm going to have this be website, and the second one that I got, I'm going to make Google AdWords. There we go. And so next it's going to ask me for the tracking source. Now I can just start typing website because I know I already created it. And because we already have the presets for AdWords, I can actually go in and type those in, and it should auto be able to find it. Then it's going to ask me for the target number, which again was 410 000 000. There we go. So then I want to hit save and continue. Yep. So now this is going to bring me into my call settings. Now every phone number needs to live inside of a call settings because this is where we can do some this is where we're going to put in our greeting message. This is where we're going to decide whether or not we want this call to be recorded or not. So let's go ahead and walk through this. So by default, we're going to create a call settings called account level. And we're going to have a little audio that says, for quality assurance, this call may be recorded. Now this information can be customized a lot of different ways. I'm going to unplug my microphone, so my audio might get a little bad, but I think you'll be able to hear it. So let's see if this works.
For quality assurance, this call may be recorded.
So I could customize this to say something like, thank you for calling. And then it could say that.
Thank you for calling.
So with this, you can just type whatever you'd like out and it will read it. What's kind of cool too is that you have the ability to adjust the accent. So maybe I wanted, a Canadian French accent. And then we can also select the voice. So see how awesome Alice sounds with a French Canadian accent.
Thank you for calling.
Sound pretty good. Maybe it's like a Spanish accent, and then we only have awesome Alice. Maybe English with an Indian accent. See how she sounds.
Thank you for calling.
Yeah, they're pretty good. We always like to play with these. Let's do generic man.
Thank you for calling.
Yep. You can also record your own audio with this. So that would be using your microphone, or you can upload a file that you already have. So, or if you leave it blank, then nothing will play. Up to you and your state to know the laws on whether or not you have to announce whether this call is recorded or not. So if we move a little further down our call settings, here's where we have the ability to customize how we want things to be recorded. Maybe you, for whatever reason, don't want any of the calls recorded. No problem. You can just disable that right here. Or you could record for both inbound and outbound by toggling this on. We do have some additional options that come at a price, which will vary by plan. One is for encrypted call recordings. Another is for dual channel recordings. So that'll actually separate the speakers so that you could actually delete maybe one side of the recording. And then we give you the ability to record ringing as soon as the call starts. So that's our recordings typically start once both parties are on the line. But if for whatever reason you want it to record as soon as the ringing hits, you can enable that here. So we're going to cover a lot of this tomorrow in great detail. So I'm going to just start skimming over this. So we have the ability to transcribe calls. We can do some more with the caller ID. We'll be covering that tomorrow. We have a spam detective, which is going to be able to identify calls that look spammy and then handle them in different ways. We can play whispers while the call is connecting, which again, we're going to cover most of this tomorrow. So we can do an auto text message response. That's pretty cool. So if somebody calls in, you could send an auto response thanking them for their interest in your product, and then maybe sending them a link to your website with a promo code. All right, and then the last thing you need to do is assign phone numbers to your to your call settings, and then hit save. Just hit save, make sure they're in there, see. Okay, 2 numbers. So now if we go to numbers, tracking numbers, we can see we have our 2 numbers, our tracking numbers. We have our tracking source. This is where we want those calls to ring to. And then this is going to be the number on our website that we want to swap out for these numbers. All right, so here is our beautiful test site. Let's hit save. And then if we go to our overview, by default to that, say change. So here is the lovely page I just created. I'll put it in the chat in case anybody wants to check it out. You can do troubleshooting with me. Yep. There we go. And then I can come over here and paste it. So there's my page, but I didn't see my number swap. So for additional brownie points, does anyone know why my number didn't swap? See, if you know the answer, type it into the question box. Any ideas? And again, you can find the URL in the chat box if you wanted to test it yourself. Any ideas why we didn't see a number swap? I'm getting some good suggestions. You need a referral source. That's a good suggestion, but that's not the case because we have a source for website. Somebody said you were already cookied, which is close. And then somebody says code not pasted into HTML. So that was Stevie. You are the winner right now for 10,000 brownie points. We didn't put the code on the page, so the number is not swapping. Oh, look, now other people are saying that too. Yeah, we didn't put the code on the site. So this is actually one of the most common errors, and I like to say the no magic. There's no magic behind this. The code has to be on the site to make this work. So what we need to do is come back into our account, head to our numbers tab and tracking code, and I need to put the code on the site. So if anyone's familiar with Unbounce, to install codes, we just come to our JavaScript area here, and we need to put it in the head tag, so I can select that there and paste it in. And then I like to label things. So now I hit save and republish. And it's thinking, all right, now we're good. So, whoop, now we see the number swapping. Yay, so we have 7265. Let's see. So if I go to numbers, tracking numbers, I can see that is my website tracking source. Now, if we want to see my AdWords one, I would just need to put in that question mark GCLID equals test, and we should be able to see that. So say question mark GCLID equals test. And whoops, there we go. So what we're seeing now is that we're actually, even though we came in with the GCLID, we're seeing the same website phone number. For extra brownie points, anyone know why that would happen? Why am I not seeing the AdWords number? And someone got it, cookies. So I am cookied for the original source. Because I did not make the AdWords last touch. It's going to show me the original source I came in. So very, very good. So if I wanted to test this, the best way to do that would be in an incognito browser or a private browser. I'm using a Mac and Chrome. So to get an incognito browser, I hit Command-Shift-N, and that will pull it up for me. And then I can hit Command B, and that'll paste it in. and I should now see a different number. Aha. So as you can see, in my incognito browser, I am no longer cookied for the original source of website, and I see my Google AdWords tracking number. So, and look at my beautiful site with whatever these things are floating around. So that is really our basic setup. So today we covered tracking numbers, tracking sources, target numbers, receiving numbers. We covered testing, dynamic number insertion, making sure we have the code on the page and how to test for that. Now we were just talking about cookies, so I want to actually show you if we go to our numbers tab and then tracking code. Now, our standard cookie duration is 30 days. You can edit that. So with that, it's if I come in, organically the first time, if I come back to your site, within that 30-day period, I should always see that organic number, assuming we don't have last touch turned on. If you wanted to change that time frame, you can edit that right here. I don't believe there's any limit to how long you can set it. Let's see, anything else we wanted to cover quickly? Then there's always last touch. So if I wanted Google AdWords to be last touch, just make sure it saves. So if I enable last touch and then hit save, I'm going to do this test. Make sure I don't have any other incognitos open. I think I do. Passing cookies all over. Okay. So now if I have this, let's go incognito and paste it in. I'm going direct. I'm seeing my direct number. Now that I turned on last touch, if I say question mark GCL ID equals test, I should see different numbers because now this is set for last touch. So it'll always show this one regardless of the cookies. So it's going to override it. All right. So that is our testing as far as swapping goes. Let's jump back. So lastly, does anyone have any questions for me today? We covered a good amount in just under 2 hours. The last thing, if you have any questions, just start typing them into the question box and I'll answer them as they come in. I wanted to show you our help resources in case everyone's not completely familiar with them. We have our help center up here. From here, we have this is going to be our help documentation. You can chat with us from 7:30 a.m. to 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You can call in and we're happy to help. You can create a ticket. We do have some paid support plans. So that's really if you want us to do the heavy lifting and do the configurations for you, we're happy to do that. We have our blog. That's a great resource for how maybe different clients are using us for things like case studies. We have our training hub. So all of the videos that we saw today, those live inside of our training hub, as well as recordings of past Academy classes. So that's a great place to learn how to do things. And in regards to the help center versus the training hub, this is more follow tutorials on how to do things. And this is more of, I'm looking for this specific use case. So they're both great resources, just configured a little differently. We also have our quick help, which will pop up here, which will you can type in some questions if you're looking for something specific, or these are just some tours to help you get familiar with the system. So those are some resources that we have available for you. All right, so let's check out some of the questions. Yep. Okay, somebody says no questions. But doesn't site links go to a landing page? Yeah, this was, I might have misspoken. So site links are ad extensions, but with those, you're actually clicking to a landing page. So there'll be a GCL ID for those. So site links act exactly the same as a Google paid click. When I said ad extensions, I was really referring to call extensions specifically, because call extensions do not link to a landing page. So thank you for having me clarify that. Somebody is asking for the URLs for the videos. So let me I will paste in the training hub. So here we have the training hub. We have some starter kit. The recordings of the video of the past academies live here. Upcoming webinars and then the on-demand videos live right in here. So let me grab this link and I'll paste that into the chat for everyone. Okay. Oh, somebody says if you're showing anything other than the last slide, we can't see it. I apologize. Let me switch. I was showing our training resources, and I apologize. I often get lost at what screens I'm showing. So here we go. This is our training hub with our different videos. Then let me come over here, and this was our different help documentation. So we have our help center, our chat, phone, create tickets, training hub, academy, and then the quick help, which pops out here. So I apologize for that. Almost made it the whole time without showing the wrong screen. Okay. So somebody says, what is the reason for having one number per 20 daily visitors if they're all coming from the same source? So that's a great question, and that comes up all the time. Now, really, the reason that we do that is because we're trying to match a session to the caller and a session at a keyword level. So with our algorithm, we can confidently say we made the correct session match to the caller with a ratio of 1 to 20. Now, if it's at a ratio of, say, 1 to 100, then the odds of us matching the correct session to the caller goes way down. And as marketers, what we're trying to do is optimize, our campaigns for the keywords that are performing the best. So what we want to do is we want to be able to confidently tell you that it was this keyword that was searched that led to this phone call. So that's why we have the 1 to 20 ratio. And we'll be covering this more later on in the week, but that account doesn't have anything. But we'll give you a accuracy that will tell you how likely the match was. So in this case, we have 100% accuracy. That's really good. 99, really good. So cases like this, that's what we're looking for. If you're seeing an accuracy of, 75 or, 40 or even less than that, then, you probably don't want to optimize your campaigns based on that information because that information could be wrong. So great question. Somebody said, I understand where to pull the tracking code, but could you mention where it is placed again? Yes, so the tracking code will go into the head tag of every page on your website. So we have a WordPress plugin that will automatically add it to all of your pages, really depending on how your website is built. With something like Unbounce, you would just put it into the JavaScript section. If you have just a pure HTML site, then you would just put it in the head tag. I believe if we go here, it will also tell you, yep, that it should be in the head tag. So, great question. And somebody said, just to clarify, call outs go nowhere. So that's call out ad extensions. Those are typically just like phrases or something like that, so they're not clickable. So correct. So somebody has, can we use the same number for call only ads and call extensions? Yes. So you can absolutely do that, and they'll work pretty much exactly the same. And with our integration with Google AdWords, we'll be able to tell you the campaign, the ad group, as well as the keyword search for those. We just have a completely separate process to capture that information. So great question. So somebody says, should you set up a separate tracking source for site links? I don't really think that's necessary, because what's going to happen whether they click a site link or the main ad is that Google's going to write in the GCLID to the landing page. So it doesn't, unless you want site links to be specific tracking source, there's no need to do that. So let me come and I'll show you what. Let me search for one of these. Actually, get into better account. So you can see here's the GCLID. Whether they click on the main website or a site link, or I'm sorry, the main content of the ad or the site link, the GCLID is going to get written into the landing page URL. So there's not a need for a separate tracking source unless you want your tracking to be that granular. So we could do that if that's what you're trying to do. So somebody says, are there other ways we need to be implementing to increase the session data accuracy in addition to adding multiple call tracking numbers for the same source? No, not that I can think of. No, I would, if the accuracy is low, then we would recommend adding more numbers, or yeah, I can't think of a use case that you would need to do something different. Yeah, I'm sure there's a use case, like if you wanted to, with our Google AdWords source, what that's going to do is it, any click to a Google AdWords campaign, it's going to show the Google AdWords number. If you had a low accuracy, you could add more numbers, or like a creative alternative would be to create new tracking sources for each campaign, which would also create the need to purchase new numbers. But then that would give you campaign level tracking, but that's not necessarily necessary. So somebody asked, can you walk through an example of how to track from a Facebook ad campaign to identify a specific ad set? So that would be based on the tagging. So all the tracking with anything paid is going to have to do with the tags that are associated with it. So that's when we would probably want to go to the URL builder. And I would probably say something like the source is Facebook, the campaign is CPC, or the medium is CPC, and then this is where I would put in the information about the ads itself. So I could say, I don't know, spring, something like that. So it would build this. Oops, I'm missing the R. So for the destination URL for the Facebook campaigns, I would want to put this into it, and then I would probably have, for the source, it'd be a custom one where I'd say something like UTM source equals Facebook and UTM medium equals CPC, so that the source will actually show for all paid, but we'd also be able to capture things like the content. So I hope that answers the question. No, I'm not seeing any more, or I think so. Okay. I think I've answered all of them. These are all going to be stored so I can check them to make sure if I missed any that I can address it afterwards. So, oh, it's 4 o'clock on the dot. So thank you all for attending. Like I said, if I miss any questions, I'll follow up with them for via email. There will be a short survey after this. Feel free to fill that out, give us any feedback, pros, cons, let us know if there's more you wanted us to cover. We'll be back tomorrow, same time, and we're going to be continuing on with building out our account. Thank you all for attending and have a fantastic day.